We now have an enterprise plan for Misty Studio. If you go to our website at misty.ai and click on pricing, scroll all the way down, you'll see our new enterprise plan show up on the far right card. You can see some of the information here. Click on learn more. That's going to take you to a dedicated enterprise page. And if you're curious what the feature differences look like, we have in our matrix below a free Orem enterprise where you can see which plan has what feature, which offerings. So this is a pretty comprehensive list. So now let's take it over to Misty, and I'm already logged in here into Misty Studio, and I'm using the web version for this demo, but Enterprise is available for both web and desktop, of course. And I'm logged in as an admin for my Enterprise account. And then where the Enterprise features really come into play is if you click on Settings, you're going to see two different areas. One is under Profile. Profile will display your Enterprise profile, where you can sign out of it. You can refresh, which basically pulls down the profile if there's a change that an admin made that you want to pull down the latest changes. And then you could toggle between different teams and essentially gain the resources for those different teams. And then if you're an owner or an admin, you'll be able to see this team section. And then this is where a lot of that user management, team management will take place. So in this first tab here for users, this is of course where you can manage your users. And in here, you could already see that there's some roles that you could apply to different accounts. The owner of the account has really the most privileges. So they have everything unrestricted, plus in the settings section, they have access to manage their subscription. And if I go back here, admins have access to pretty much everything else. You can click this button right here to invite a new user. They'll receive an email, and within that email will be a link over to Misty.studio, or they could even do this from the desktop app, where they put their email in and then they'll receive a code via their email to also put in, and that will unlock the Misty Studio experience for them. What I really want to show you all is in the team section. This is where a lot of the role-based authorization comes into play. So users are associated to teams, and teams are where you define what a team has access to or does not have access to. So if I click on a team here, like team 2, we can see at the very top that you can define which platform they have access to. So if you only want a team to be able to access Misty Studio Desktop, you can select Misty Studio Desktop and deselect Web Access. Or if you want them to have access to both, you can select them both. And if we look down a little bit, this first tab right here is where you can associate or dissociate users to that team. You could also do that from the users table as well. And then the second option here, the second tab, is features. So at a macro level, you can give them access to insights, knowledge stacks, toolbox, personas, prompt libraries, all the way down here to turnstile. And so if they have access to that when they log in, they'll be able to see it. If they do not have access to it when they log in, they're not even aware of this. They don't even see it in their view. And if you go to Model Hub, this is where you can grant them access to specific providers. And if you grant them access to specific providers, they'll still need to set up that provider by adding an API and designating which models to be used. But if you don't even want them to think about it, if you want to simplify it even more for a user, such as you just want a user to launch Misty Studio and already have a model there ready to go, what you can use is the model provider. The model provider is going to pull any remote providers that you added within the model hub section, and then it's going to add those providers and the models that you have selected. So when your team logs in, they'll have access to these models all ready to go, and they don't need to worry about any further setup on their side. They can start chatting away. The last area is storage. So storage is a way that we allow teams to share resources with each other. And the way that's done is basically they're sharing those resources to an S3 bucket, and then team members can pull down those resources onto their device from the S3 bucket. I'm going to X out of this real quick and then go to storage. Just want to show you all what storage looks like. So if you add a new profile and click on template, we have some S3 compatible storage providers already pre-configured here. Or if you have another provider or even an internal provider, as long as it's S3 API compatible, you can configure that here. If you're wanting your team to also share resources using Misty Studio Web, just make sure that within that provider, you have the course policy set with Misty.studio. That way they don't see any errors when they try to either upload a resource or pull one down. All right, so I'm going to X out of this real quick. And then the last thing I want to show you before I go to user is this audit trail. So the audit trail is really at the team user management level. Any action that takes place within this section, the audit trail is going to appear here. I have another tab open where I'm logged in as a regular user, which is this user right here who has access to Team 1. And so we can see what's in Team 1. Let's click on this real quick. So as a user, when I log in, I should expect to see prompts library and persona, no providers that I can configure, but I do have some Google models that I can use. I think I set 2.5 Flash here. And then I also have a storage provider. Let's go and click on this tab here. So again, I'm logged in just as a regular user. And in the left menu over here, you can see that I have access to personas, I have access to Model Hub and Prompts Library. So they are only seeing what they have access to. And if I click on Model Hub right here, we could see I didn't set this up at all as a user. It was pulled down automatically. And I can see that I have access to Google Generative AI and Gemini 2.5 Flash, but I don't have access to edit or delete this. So this is a really great way just to manage exactly which remote providers a team member can have access to. And if you ever need to change it to add another provider, it's pretty straightforward. Actually, we could do that right now. If I go back to the admin right here, and then let's see, if I click on model providers, I have Amazon Bedrock available as well. So I'm going to select that. So I granted access to those two providers. And then if I go back to my user profile here, I'm going to X out of this and then go to settings. And if you recall earlier, I said if you click on this refresh button, it's basically going to pull down my profile and then refresh it with the new information if there's new information. Okay, looks like it did that. And then if I go here and click on this, cool. Now we see that I have access to Amazon Bedrock with the Claude 3 Haiku model that I added there, as well as Google Generative AI. If I just log in for the first time, I have 2.5 Flash already there. So if let's just say hi. And we can see right away, it's responding. So no configuration necessary for this. And now I want to show you what the team sharing looks like. If I go to personas, it looks like I don't have anything created. So let's say I create my own persona. Let's call this example 1 and then just type hello. So I'm not going to really do too much for this persona, and then save that. And then how about I add another persona? This one's going to be example 2. Okay, and save that out. All right, to share a persona, all you need to do is click on the ellipses and then click on the option share to cloud. And we see the status pop up, turn green, and we shared example 2 to the cloud. So you could either share individual items or you could share a folder. So to share a folder, click on the ellipses there, and then cloud share, and then share to cloud. And then again, we're going to see that these two items, example 1 and example 2, were uploaded. So now if we want to pull it to our device, what we could do is I'm going to just create a new folder. How about I call this cloud? Okay, and then I'm going to click on cloud share and then manage cloud. And then we're going to see that I have a folder available, and I also have some other items that I uploaded before. So if I want to import this folder or import an individual persona, and let's import some of these. So how about we import just some of these individual personas like P1 and P2 and P3. So we saw those imported, and I should be able to expand cloud. Okay, and now I see P1, P2, and P3. So if I click on those, again, just really simple little test. And I'm going to rename this folder from miscellaneous to something else. So I'm going to edit the folder and call this 2, because now what I want to do is also just import a whole folder. So if I do that, okay, I'm going to click on Manage Cloud Shared Personas. And then once it loads, I'm going to select this folder. I'm going to import that. So it should import a new miscellaneous folder with those files that we saw before. Okay, and then if I expand this, I see example 1 and example 2. And if I click on Cloud Share for the folder, you also have this option refresh from cloud. What happens in that instance is it's basically going to pull that folder. So with this folder, you could share more items to the folder. But if you refresh that folder back down from cloud, it's going to refresh any items here. So what that means is any match that it sees is going to override the data in that with the data from the cloud, as well as if there's a net new persona, it's going to add that here as well.